staff of the Hull and East Yorkshire Chronic Fatigue Service, together with patients, have created this DVD to help you understand chronic fatigue syndrome and begin to manage and stabilise your symptoms, taking the first steps on the road to recovery. This DVD will also help you understand what our service has to offer. Chronic fatigue syndrome is a complex disorder, confusing sufferers as well as those close to them. Patients often feel very unwell, with an array of symptoms, but all tests return normal. This, however, does not mean that the symptoms are not real. CFS can be a debilitating disorder with widespread consequences. Many things can contribute to the difficulties, with no simple answer to recovery, but a broad, holistic approach can improve a sufferer's quality of life.
It's just changed my life completely. It's made me very aware of how much I used to set myself targets, how driven I was, how I could never set myself achievable targets. I'd always expect to do more than was a reasonable amount to ask of myself. I just kept going and going. So it made me stop doing that.
I think for me, from a social point of view, we had a very active social life, going out with friends, going out to dinner. I was very sporty, and for me, obviously with losing mobility, being very tired all of the time, sport was something that I lost. I wasn't able to do anymore. Going out to dinner was a major problem for me because if you didn't feel tired, you couldn't be bothered to speak to people. And I felt that I lost a lot of the social side with friends and with family. And I just found that really, really hard to deal with.
Well, I felt quite isolated because I did what I needed to do to function. So I ate, slept and worked. I lost a lot of friends. I didn't do very much, and that sort of took its toll on your social side of things and your finances, because obviously keeping up with work is quite difficult, and things like that. It wasn't very nice.
Chronic fatigue syndrome affects adults and children of both sexes. Around 250,000 people in the UK have chronic fatigue syndrome, with an estimated 1,700 cases in Hull and East Yorkshire. It's not a new problem either. Medical historians have described similar conditions for centuries. Common themes are infection, overwork, nervous exhaustion, and overstretched resources. Neurasthenia is seen by many as a 19th century forerunner of chronic fatigue syndrome. Florence Nightingale was known to be a sufferer. Her birthday is now celebrated as International CFS Awareness Day. Chronic fatigue syndrome, as we understand it today, was first described in 1980. Famous sufferers include novelist and yachtswoman Claire Francis, a filmmaker Lord Putnam, and Olympic athlete Anna Hemmings has recently spoken of her 2-year battle with CFS. The cause is not fully understood, being seen as either physical and therefore real or psychological, and somehow imagined, has been the painful and unhelpful experience of many. Patients would often be passed from specialist to specialist, undergoing numerous tests, only for the results to come back normal and the doctors to tell them what they haven't got. It was a frustrating and demoralising process for everyone involved. We now know that there's a small genetic influence on its development. Viral infections can trigger the condition, but do not explain the whole picture. And whilst depression is often linked to the disorder, it is not the same thing. It's been suggested that there's a subtle dysfunction in the hypothalamus in the brain. This links the immune, nervous and endocrine systems, coordinating the body's response to stress. Although not conclusive, it is suggested that previous episodes of depression or chronically stressful life situations can cause changes in this system and increase an individual's chance of developing CFS. The end result can feel like having the volume turned up loud all the time inside. The person feels super sensitive to everything. Ordinary tasks are a struggle. Sensations are more painful. Noise and light can feel too much. Hustle and bustle can feel overwhelming. Foods, alcohol, or medication can be hard to tolerate. And situations which we can easily deal with when feeling well can readily produce anxiety, tears, or anger. We do, however, have some understanding about what can be helpful when treating CFS, how to help people turn the volume back down. We hope this DVD is a useful starting point. The understanding and diagnosis of chronic fatigue syndrome has improved dramatically. Through increasing awareness over the past 10 to 15 years, doctors are now far more confident in making a clear diagnosis of CFS. Early diagnosis helps point people in the right direction from the start and boosts morale.
I just actually started a new job and I started to get pains in my left arm, aches, not shooting pains. And I found it really difficult sort of picking things up, and my job then was managing a building society, and I couldn't count money without being in severe pain. I went to my GP and they were sort of, doing a few tests and going through a few things and put quite a bit down to stress at that point, because not only had I changed jobs and I had moved house, and my husband was having a bypass operation in the new year. After his operation, my symptoms hadn't changed, but after his operation I was feeling very, very, very tired. I had actually given him 24-hour care, and I actually put it down to the fact that I was just exhausted with trying to run a house, a family, but my condition didn't actually get any better. So my GP signed me off with stress and did further tests. By then I was struggling to walk, I was tired most of the time, I had no energy, and life was really, really quite grim.
When patients are referred to the local CFS service, most have already had a firm diagnosis from their doctor, but everybody is different, so may be given further checks by the group's consultant physician. All common treatable causes of fatigue must first be ruled out before a diagnosis of CFS can be reached. The National Institute for Clinical Excellence recommends a minimum series of blood tests. The physician will spend time talking to the patient about their symptoms and clarifying the results of any tests, enabling him to make a clear diagnosis. Once this stage has been reached, we look into an individual's story more deeply to establish what may be particularly helpful in their recovery. The most effective way to move forward with chronic fatigue syndrome is to follow the biopsychosocial model. In other words, to adopt a holistic approach, taking into account the individual's biological, psychological makeup and their social circumstances. Biological factors include individual vulnerabilities, pre-existing illness or injuries, sleep pattern, diet, medication. Psychological factors refer to the meaning and impact of ill health, how people cope with what is happening to them. Disabling symptoms can be very frightening and stressful, which in turn drains further energy. Social factors look at families and work. Having CFS often means changes in work, school, or home, which can affect how a person feels about themselves. For example, less energy for socializing can lead to isolation and low morale. All these factors contribute to the overall picture. We try and make sense of why someone has developed CFS, the predisposing factors, why it started when it did, the precipitating factors, and why it hasn't got better, the perpetuating factors. For example, if we listen to Andrea's story.
I was 22 when I first noticed my symptoms. I couldn't remember things or concentrate well. I felt constantly tired and cold after cold. 2 years prior to that, I'd been in Africa studying for my degree in marine and freshwater biology. I picked up a parasitic disease called bilharzia. One of the symptoms was heavy fatigue, but I did recover from it shortly after. As I neared the end of my study trying to finish off my dissertation, and whilst working as a lifeguard at the local bath, I began to feel ill again. I suppose not eating very well didn't help. It's important to me that I do well in everything I do, but back then I took on far too much and I was really not looking after myself. My stress levels went through the roof and I began to feel quite exhausted. I tried to ignore the symptoms as I wanted to finish my degree off. I didn't feel I could take time off work either, as I needed the money, and I felt more and more tired and unable to do what I felt I should be doing, and the frustration rose. I felt very low and powerless to do anything about it. By the time I went for treatment, I felt total failure. I was worried about what people thought and couldn't live up to their expectations, as I just felt so tired.
Possible predisposing factors for Andrea were her perfectionist tendencies. Precipitating or trigger factors may have been her illness in Africa, followed by a heavy workload and high stress levels. Perpetuating or maintaining factors were the low mood she developed as a result of failing to meet the demands of herself and others, and the boom and bust pattern, which we will discuss in the next section. When looking at the problem in this way, it becomes obvious as to why changing just one factor, such as diet, does not rectify the problem. If you wish to make the changes that will help you recover, you need to look at all aspects of your life. Until you know what is maintaining the problem, it is difficult to make the changes needed to recover. A fundamental skill needed to recover from chronic fatigue syndrome is the ability to pace activity. Pacing is often the problem for those who do get stuck with their recovery. The most common and understandable way to cope with limited energy is to try and do as much as you can until your body tells you to stop. How your body tells you to stop is often unique to the individual. Some people describe feeling as if a plug has just been pulled out of them and their energy totally drains away. Some people describe feeling weak and nauseous, others clouding over in their minds as if their brain is in a fog. People are then forced to rest. They feel a bit better, so then they try to catch up. A boom or bust situation. There are two problems with this pattern that make it hard for the body to recover. Firstly, it can feel as if your symptoms are in control and your life is dictated by them. This can lead to uncertainty and frustration. Pacing can be a way of putting you back in control. Secondly, forced periods of rest lead to problems with deconditioning. Muscles become less efficient. Reduced blood volume and heart size contribute to breathlessness when exercising, and gradually people find they can no longer push themselves as far. The key step to getting out of this boom and bust pattern is what we call finding a baseline. A baseline is the level of activity that is sustainable, with little variation in symptoms. Finding a baseline can take time and can be difficult, but it is crucial. Engaging in sustainable activity allows you to be more in control of your life, and it's from this baseline that it's easiest to move forward. Think about an energy level as a mobile phone battery. If you drain it completely, it'll be a long time before it's fully charged and ready to use again. But if you use just a portion of the phone's battery and regularly top it up, it'll always be ready to use. There are several ways in which you can find your own baseline. One key thing is to always stop before you have to. So, if 20 minutes of walking causes you difficulty, you should have a short rest after 10 to 15 minutes. Sometimes activity schedules can be a helpful way of finding your baseline. To complete an activity schedule, you need to jot down on a sheet of paper everything that you are doing on an hour-to-hour basis, and also give a score, which then indicates the severity of your symptoms. So, 0 is when things are manageable, 10 is when things are unbearable. This is an example of Andrea's activity schedules.
What strikes me, first of all, looking at this activity schedule, is that actually that the first couple of days of the week are manageable. Your scores are sort of 4, 5, 6. Symptoms certainly aren't overwhelming you, and I think that that's probably because you're not at university those days and you're just doing one short thing on each day, going to the local shop and doing a little bit of coursework on the second day. But then the rest of the week, the scores are really building up. Till the Sunday, you're spending most of the day in bed. And we want to try and avoid that boom and bust if we can. So I think that on these 4 days, you are doing two quite big things: going to university and either the lifeguarding or out with your friends. And I think probably you need to be able to just focus on one thing each day at the moment. And then I would also say to try and break that down as much as you can. So when you're at university, after each tutorial or each lecture, try and have a break whenever you can, and a short rest as often as possible. So I would see how you get on with that first, to see if you can bring these scores down by both breaking things up a bit but also doing less on certain days.
Wherever our activity scores are high, we can help by looking at ways of incorporating more rest and breaking activity down into smaller chunks. Here are a few ideas other people have been using.
Regard to sort of socialising, meeting up with friends, family, etc. I think with this one as well, you do have to plan what you are going to do. I do find it very useful to, if it is going to be somewhere out of my home, that I will look to the venue accordingly as to what is suitable for me. So then I can go in my own time, I can leave in my own time, so I'm not, reliant on people giving me a lift home when it effectively doesn't suit me. I do find that sometimes you do have to turn events down. You do have to say no, but you can still be in touch with people, by telephone. And again, I think you do have to be a little bit more selfish and do things on your own terms. When I arrive at a supermarket, I always take a trolley now. I mean, it's very, sort of easy to take a basket if you've only got a few things, but it is very handy to have the trolley to lean on, to rest, as and when you go around the supermarket. I do now, if need be, I do get help when looking for things, lifting heavy packages, etc. from shelves, which again I wouldn't normally have done. But if you do this, it does actually help you when you do return home and thereafter. It does have an impact that you do get as much help as you can get. I do take my time around a supermarket. I mean, previously, it's like anyone, you're on a time frame, you whiz around and get what you need. And I do really take my time. And at the checkout, again, I ask for help. I ask to pack the bags and put them in the trolley for me. And a good way, which I've always picked up, is that I usually stop and have a coffee. If nothing else, to break up the fact that I've been out a couple of hours, and also just to give me the rest before I then have to return home.
Some of the most difficult symptoms to manage in CFS are the cognitive ones.
I couldn't string sentences together properly, slurring the words. I'd be in a conversation with a group of people and I'd be 2 conversations behind. So keeping up with what people were saying and what I'm supposed to be doing was quite difficult. This sort of drunken feeling was, it's almost like being 2 steps behind your actual body. You're there, but you're not necessarily receptive to other people.
Forgetting things, or struggling to find simple words you know. Some people feel unable to concentrate on more than one thing at a time. Group conversation can seem overwhelming. Sometimes cognitive symptoms improve, often lagging slightly behind as physical strength returns. Sometimes they need particular attention. We all know how to stop and rest our bodies by sitting or lying down. Many people find it a lot more difficult to do this with their minds. Patients often describe going to bed feeling utterly exhausted, but their mind just won't stop thinking, preventing the sleep they desperately want and need. Many people need help to pace their mental activity. Watching television, conversation, using a computer and reading are all cognitive activities which need to be broken down in the same way as physical activity. Many people describe socializing as one of the most draining things they do. Some people say they have always been a bit of a worrier, with an active mind which drives them forward. For others, the challenges of chronic fatigue, its isolating nature, the extended time spent resting, financial and other impacts, can leave them with more concerns about the future and more time to worry about them. So how do we try and help people give their minds a rest? Our service, along with others up and down the country, is beginning to use mindfulness meditation as an aid to recovery in CFS. Mindfulness is a way of paying attention that originated in Eastern meditation practices. It's not the same as relaxation, although it may induce relaxation, and it has been used in a variety of health settings. Essentially, the aim is to help people spend more time fully in the present, to live in the moment, not the same as living for the moment. Many of us are often on automatic pilot, not fully aware of our surroundings, and so are easily distracted by our thoughts, especially unpleasant ones. Much energy can be spent on mulling over regrets, worrying about the past, or fantasizing about the future. Mindfulness is about clearing the mind and being more in touch with the present moment and with the body. Ultimately, this enables us to be more in touch with signals that all is not well and to respond appropriately. This DVD has a mindfulness exercise included for you to use. You can find it through the opening menu.
I'm going to show you some techniques that we can use for pain relief in chronic fatigue. There's a few different modalities that can be useful that you can use yourself at home, and hopefully some of this advice might be helpful to you. We're going to look at a few techniques that you might find helpful to correct your sitting posture and sleeping posture. So here you might see us correcting sitting using a lumbar roll, which will help maintain a hollow in your back. If we get that right, the head will follow suit. It'll be in a nice position. A pillow placed underneath the arms will help take the tension out of the neck and reduce some of the aches down across your shoulders and down the arms. In sleeping, there's a few different positions that can be used. A lot of people like to sleep on the side. If you're going to do that, a pillow placed under the upper leg will maintain a nice posture with the lower leg nice and straight. This keeps the spine straight. Sometimes inserting a roll into the pillow will maintain a nice head position, which is very useful for maintaining a straight spine. In sitting, there's a technique here where we can use slouch correct, where you go all the way into a complete slump and then ever so slowly grow into a full erect sitting posture. Hold this for 20 seconds and then relax down again. And holding that technique will teach the body quickly how to find a correct sitting posture. You can use a slouch correct technique for pain relief. It works the core muscles in the trunk, and as you activate them, it helps reduce pain across the lower back and up into the neck. So a very nice technique for both pain relief and for correcting your posture. You'll also see demonstrated use of ice, which can be in the form of just a pack of frozen peas wrapped in a towel, or you can use an ice block that's used from one of the freezer boxes. You apply ice for about 10 minutes only. Always make sure you've got a towel around it first so it's not directly onto the skin. Heat is very useful as well. A simple hot water bottle with a cover will be useful placed around the spine, in particular the neck and shoulders. It benefits greatly from heat as opposed to cold. This can be used in the lumbar spine as well. So you can apply these 10 to 15 minutes at a time. TENS units are being demonstrated as well, and these are available if you like to contact the service. We can furnish you with a number where you can get a hold of a TENS unit. They can be applied all day long if need be, and some people get great relief very quickly from TENS, and this is used for all kinds of different pains. There's another technique demonstrating if you have headaches, and this is using a couple of simple techniques that can very quickly take the tension out of the head. The headache techniques involve sustaining a head tucked back position for 30 seconds, and if it reduces the headache, you would just repeat that up to 3 times. If it fails to have any effect after the first time, then you can try this technique with a towel. It just hooks underneath the top of the neck, underneath the skull, pull it forward for 30 seconds, and that may reduce the tension in the head. If it does, you repeat that for 30 seconds 3 times.
All of us experience difficulties with being able to pace. If we could spend our days in a bubble without having interactions with the world around us, chronic fatigue would be easier to recover from. We would be able to plan our days according to our baseline levels and pace ourselves so that we were able to recover. But as we all know, life is not really like that. There are some obvious barriers to negotiate. For example, busy periods at work, lively children, or unexpected visitors. However, sometimes the barriers can come from within ourselves. We go through each day with a constant inner dialogue. We're not always aware of everything we say to ourselves, and often these messages are positive. But some messages are negative, and they can sound like rules, beginning with I should or I must. These inner thoughts, or rules, can hinder our attempts to look after ourselves. It may be useful to try and capture your own thoughts. Negative self-talk and rigid rules are ways of sabotaging yourself and can make you feel worse. Once you have identified some of your own unhelpful messages, try and find alternatives. Learning to do this regularly can improve your well-being.
I did find it difficult to pace because I do have that sort of personality that tells me I've got to do it. You know, I've got to do it well. I've got to do more than most people. I didn't realise I was like that. It is only when I stopped I realised. And so with pacing, instead of being kind to myself and saying, okay, just allow yourself to do one little thing today, I'd have to do 2. And then, of course, it would set me back, and then I'd get a little bit despondent because I couldn't do as much as I thought I should do, and I'd be in a bit of a cycle of, oh, well, you're not trying hard enough, or you're not good enough, or but when I learned to be kinder to myself, I found it was like learning to walk almost. You know, it was having such low expectations of myself that were really alien to how I thought I should be. But starting again like that was actually the only way for me to sort of work through it.
Trying to change can be difficult as others have become used to how we are. Often, people with CFS find they have to learn to be more assertive to achieve the changes they need to make. One example of being assertive is learning how to say no to other people effectively and without feeling guilty. This can enable us to take more control of our lives. Being able to say no is illustrated in this clip using a technique called the broken record that involves calmly stating and restating your needs. It is very helpful in allowing you to stay assertive and keep to your pacing, so you are able to enjoy some social interaction but not become excessively fatigued.
Hello? Hello, Mum. I'm fine. Yeah, not too bad. That would be great. When were you thinking of? No, not this afternoon. I've really had a very busy weekend and I'm very, very tired. I need to rest. Well, I'm really tired today. I've had a really, really busy weekend, so I'm just going to stay home and rest. I know, I mean, it's a lovely idea, but not this afternoon. I just know it would be far too much for me. No, that would be too much for me, not this afternoon. What about next week? Monday, Tuesday? Tuesday would be great. Look, all right. About 11 o'clock, Mum. All right, see you then. Bye.
Another aspect of assertiveness is being able to ask for help. We would say that it's important, even at this stage for you, to be able to explain what it is you need and ask clearly for what you want. Then others are given the chance to be able to provide that. Sometimes we have to make difficult decisions whilst we are recovering. We may need to cut down our working hours or take on extra help with childcare. Often we have to make these changes to stabilise and improve the condition, and they do not need to be permanent. By addressing the rules we impose upon ourselves, and by being more assertive about the help we need, we can begin to improve our quality of life. When we first start to feel ill, we focus on the problem. Now this is understandable, but can come to compound the instability we already feel as a result of being unwell. Sometimes people come to realise how unbalanced their lives were prior to becoming unwell, and see addressing this as part of the solution. Ideally, our lives should have a balance of work, rest and play. But when people have CFS and limited energy, they often cut out the pleasurable activities, seeing them as non-essential, in order to prioritise work. This is not sustainable. It is important to maintain a balance and incorporate sociable and pleasurable activity into your week, even if sometimes this is just a short phone call. Sleep can become very disrupted in CFS, which can exacerbate symptoms, making it feel as if everything is spiralling out of control. Lying awake at night trying to think through your problems is not a good idea. People often feel more trapped and vulnerable at night, but there are some things you can do which may help. Firstly, establish a bedtime routine. Go to bed at a regular time, winding down slowly. Avoid stimulants such as coffee or tea from mid-afternoon onwards. Try to rest rather than sleep during the day, or plan the length of time you do sleep and use an alarm. Relax in a warm bath, or listen to peaceful music. If your mind is preoccupied with something, try writing it down. This can help lift the worry of constantly trying to remember something and enable you to focus on relaxing. For many, stabilising the condition can be the most difficult part, but for some, moving forward is difficult.
The turning point for me in my recovery was a change, complete and utter change. I finished university. I left there and did it in my own time without pressure from other people. I also left my boyfriend at the time and the house and everything, finished, got rid, and then I just set up on my own. New job, new start, finished the masters, that's it.
Once the condition is stabilised, you need to be able to gradually increase your level of activity. Stabilising is not about keeping everything at the same pace forever. Otherwise, pacing is then like a new rule, rather than a tool to move forward. There are a number of ways that goals can be set. You need to pick an approach that is useful to you. A great way of moving forward in your recovery is by grouping your goals. This splits your targets into the different areas of your life: work, leisure, family, health, relationships, and personal development. Fill in the chart, and you can then think about timeframes, looking at short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. Short-term means this week or next week. Mid-term means a month or so, and long-term, anything up to a year. Coffee with a friend would fit the relationship area. Perhaps the long-term goal could be to meet your friend in town for coffee. To do that, you would need to practice and increase the amount of time you are able to tolerate walking, sitting, and talking, working up to that long-term goal. In order to break it down, it would be useful perhaps to think about the component parts. So, for example, you could practice walking for 10 minutes, the distance you would need to walk from the car to the coffee shop. That could be a short-term goal. You could increase that to being able to walk for 10 minutes and go into a shop and buy a couple of items, practicing this on a couple of occasions, so that you are sure you would be able to manage the component parts before trying it as a whole for real. Sometimes you may find that the goals you have set are too difficult. For instance, you might have put in the short term that you want to be able to work 2 days a week. That may be unrealistic if you've been doing no work at all. Once you know this, you can move it to the mid-term box and work out how to achieve your 2 days a week in a few months' time, rather than next week. Perhaps your work could set small tasks you could do at home, to increase your concentration and the amount of time you need to sit up to do something, etc. Goals give us a sense of meaning and motivation, and without them we tend to feel hopeless and prone to depression. Achieving goals gives us confidence, so it's essential to make sure that the goals you set do not overwhelm you, challenge you, but are interesting and stimulating. There is often a tendency to try and move along too quickly. Gaining confidence can lead to setting your sights too high. Activity needs to be gradually increased. This works on the principle that once you have achieved your aim and been stable for a week or so, an increase of approximately 10% should be manageable. Take walking. Once 10 minutes walking is comfortable, then after a week or so, walk for 11 minutes. 15 minutes would be too long, as this would be a 50% increase. By overstretching yourself, you're more likely to fall short of your target and risk increasing your symptoms and falling back into the boom and bust pattern. Sometimes, accepting you have CFS can be difficult.
I think probably the big turning point for me was two things. I think one, being able to begin to talk about it to people. At first I kept it to myself. I didn't want to show anybody that I couldn't do things that I used to be able to do, or things that I felt I was good at and took pride in. So that was really hard for me to begin to talk about it and talk to my wife, for instance. So once I'd begun to do that, and I guess the other thing before that was admitting to myself that there was something wrong. Before I just kind of put on a brave front and insist on doing what I've always done, and not really acknowledging to myself. And I think those are the two turning points, really.
Your doctor and the tests you have had may tell you there is nothing wrong with you, but this doesn't mean your health is okay. Your friends, family, and colleagues may not understand and encourage you to push through or pull yourself together. You may believe that a problem with psychological factors means that it is not real. However, this is not the case. The following pointers may help you. Try to accept that you are ill and that you cannot push through this no matter how hard you try. Take the lead in making your own changes to your life so you stay in control. Pace your activity, even though you may feel under pressure to meet other people's needs or routines. Ask for help if you need it. Accept that you cannot now do all things the way you used to. You may have to think about doing them in a different way. By following the helpful hints on this video and the advice of your GP and local CFS group, your first step on the road to recovery may be just around the corner.
First of all, you find a nice comfortable position, so we've got the head supported with the pillow, a roll underneath it to keep the head in neutral. Pillow under the knees helps so that, there's not a lot of tension in the legs now. If you pop your arms to your side there, John. Okay. Now, one of the things about relaxing is to try and get the muscles to work and then switch off slowly. So, nice technique we use here is contracting each muscle group and then relaxing it. I'm going to get you to just point your toes right down as hard as you can for 2 or 3 seconds, John. Really hard, and then just let them go. Okay, and then same again, really hard, hold it 2 or 3 seconds, and slowly let go. And once you let go on the third time, you forget about those feet. They're not going to contract at all anymore. Okay, they just go heavy, forget them. They will now just switch off and relax quite nicely. Okay, so we move up from the feet now and start to think about the legs themselves. I'm going to get you to contract the knees, just try to push them hard into the pillow. So just try that now, push hard onto the pillow, 2 or 3 seconds, and slowly release. And that nice hard contraction, same again, 2 or 3 seconds, really hard, and then just let go. And the third one, tighten up really hard, push into that pillow, and then slowly ease off. And again, like the feet, as you let go, tension comes out of the legs, forget about the feet, forget about the knees now. Okay, just coming down the arms now, so same as the feet, we're going to use hands, tighten up really tight into a fist, both sides, grip tight, and then just release and let go. And then just tighten again, squeeze hard, all the way through, the whole arms tighten, and then off slowly. And the tension off, and the hands go heavy, sit onto the bed now, they're flopping there, they're not going to move again. Okay, so everything from there on, down, relaxed, heavy, not going to move. So moving up further up now, so just thinking of your shoulder blades, the back of the shoulder blades, you're going to pull them back into the bed as if you're going to really squash them together. So really tight there, hold it, 2, 3, and then relax. And then just the same again, pull them back, hold it 2 or 3 seconds, and off, and let go. One final one to go now, just eyes this time. And I'm just going to get you to squeeze your eyes really tightly shut, John, and just hold them tight for 2 or 3 seconds. So off you go. Tight as you can, whole face tightens up, that's the one. And then just release. Excellent. Once again, tighten up, tighten, and then just release. Excellent. And one final one now, so just squeeze it, tight, and release. Let go. No tension. Just relax. Face is all relaxed, arms relaxed, legs just sit there and chill. Okay, and releasing all the tension like that, you just relax. Okay.
We'll just give you a taster of a mindfulness breathing exercise now. So if you settle into a comfortable sitting position with your back slightly away from the chair so that your spine is self-supporting and your feet flat on the floor. And then just feel the sensation of your buttocks in the chair. If it's comfortable to do so, close your eyes. And bring your attention to the physical sensations of touch and pressure in your body where it's making contact with the chair and with the floor. Spend a moment or two exploring these sensations. Now bring your awareness to the changing patterns in your lower abdomen as the breath moves in and out of your body. Feel your abdomen rising as you breathe in. And focus on the breathing for the full duration of each breath, as if you're riding the waves of your own breathing. If you notice your mind wandering, gently bring it back. Gently bring it back to your breathing. Notice your breath coming into your body and out of your body. If your mind wanders 1,000 times, gently bring it back without judgment. This is perfectly okay. It's simply what minds do. It's not a mistake or a failure. Gently escort your awareness back to the focus of the changing pattern of sensations in your abdomen. Rising with the in-breath and deflating with the out-breath. Feel cool air entering your mouth and nostrils as you breathe in, and warm air leaving your mouth and nostrils as you breathe out. As best you can, bring a quality of kindliness to your awareness, perhaps seeing the repeated wandering of the mind as opportunities to bring patience to your experience. Keep bringing your mind back to the body, rising with the in-breath and falling with the out-breath. Noticing the slight pauses between one in-breath and the following out-breath, between one out-breath and the following in-breath. There is no need to try to control the breathing in any way. Simply let the breath breathe itself. As best you can, bring this attitude of allowing to the rest of your experience. There's nothing to be fixed, no particular state to be achieved. Simply allow your experience to be your experience without needing it to be other than it is. If your mind wanders, gently bring it back to your breath entering your body and leaving your body. When you feel ready, allow the breathing to fade into the background, with the knowledge that you can return to your breath at any moment during the day, recapturing the sense of stillness and stability of being in the present moment. In your own time, open your eyes and move gently and slowly back into your day.